War has come to the Inner Sea. Since the death of Gorum and the God's reign, old rivalries have sparked and grown into the flames of conflict. One of these war fronts is that between the hellish empire of Cheliax and the Democratic Republic of Andoran. Once a part of Cheliax, Andoran attained its independence almost 60 years ago, but still has to defend its autonomy against the forces of the infernal House Thrune. Now, in an age where the blood of a god fell on Golarion, tensions between these nations run high, and all-out war is inevitable. A war between these two nations will change the face of the Inner Sea forever, and perhaps lead to the end of an infernal empire that has dominated Avestan for centuries. Hear now of how the tensions between Cheliax and Andoran began, and how recent developments have brought these enemies against each other once again. The nation of Andoran originated as a province of the Taldan Empire. Like many other regions of it, Andoran was exploited by Taldan rulers, extracting resources and people for its faraway wars that reached all the way into Garund. In 4081 AR, Andoran attempted to break free of Taldor, but before it could do so, a weakened Taldan Empire surrendered the province to the new Empire of Cheliax, led by Aspax the Even-Tongued. For centuries, Andoran flourished under Chelaxian rule. The region became wealthy through its vast amount of natural resources, and its geographical location made it an excellent place for trade. If it was not for the death of Eredin and the following turmoil within Cheliax, one could imagine how Andoran would still be a province of a grand and noble Chelaxian empire today. Alas, in 4606 AR, Eredin died, and the Chelaxian Civil War began. When in 4640 AR House Thrune took control of the empire, Andoran at first served its new rulers. After 3 decades of civil war, the region was tired of unrest and needed a period of stability to recover. However, it would not take long for the Andorans to discover that the new leadership of Cheliax was not as righteous and virtuous as its former rulers, and the call for an independent Andoran grew louder. In 4669 AR, the People's Revolt began and would lead Andoran's liberation. Inspired by Galtan philosophers, wealthy Andoran merchants gathered the people behind them and rejected the rule of the Chelaxian nobility. After a relatively short economic and political struggle, Cheliax gave up on holding the region in its grasp, allowing Andoran to become a free, parliamentary democracy. Cheliax and Andoran have been rivals ever since, each watching the other for weaknesses and chances to seize ground from one another. However, a little less than 3 decades after its independence, Andoran would fight side by side with Chelaxian forces against a common foe emerging from Isger. Claimed in 4081 AR just like Andoran, Isgar had been a vassal of Cheliax for many centuries. Though there always had been cries for its independence, the rulers of Isger never garnered the courage to try and claim it like Andoran had done. It has ever since been exploited by Cheliax for its resources, leaving the people of Isger with little for themselves. In 4697 AR, a combined force of hundreds of goblinoid tribes emerged from Isger's Chitterwood, raiding the countryside and claiming countless victims. A slow response from the country's leaders allowed the tribes more room to destroy and pillage, and within a short amount of time, the goblinoid war host had grown from a regional problem to a force that could threaten neighboring nations. The Goblin Blood Wars had begun. It would take the combined forces of Druma's Mercenary League, Hell Knights from Cheliax, and Andoran's Eagle Knights to drive back the Goblin armies. All sides involved took massive casualties, and the echoes of the Goblin Blood Wars still ring into the present. One such echo comes in the form of the ties Cheliax and Andoran feel towards Isger. Both nations spilled the blood of their people there, and feel a desire to protect the land. Of course, what form exactly such protection takes differs between the two. While Cheliax believes that Isger remaining a vassal state is the safest course for it, Andoran would very much welcome a future in which Isger claims its independence and breaks free from Chelaxian oppression. Opinions about Isger's future are also divided within the country itself. The ruling steward Hedvent VI is focused on fulfilling whatever Cheliax demands of him, extracting wealth from the countryside and funneling it towards the capital of Elidir. This has created impoverished regions beyond the capital, in which contempt for the steward ferments. However, ever since the Goblin Blood Wars, Cheliax has been providing support for Isger, mainly in the form of orphanages established by the Church of Asmodeus. This assistance is, of course, not altruistic in any way, and the people of Isger most likely know this. Still, outright rebellion has been prevented so far, and various groups that aim for Isger's independence have been unable to garner enough support among the population to truly try and break Isger away from the infernal rule of House Thrune. One group, however, is trying to achieve independence through different means. The Hellbreakers League, founded by Elcio and Phoebe Demetrius, has been searching Isger for war shards, hoping that their divine power could give them a powerful weapon in the fight against Cheliax. Rumors of the League having located at least one such shard spread through the villages and would eventually reach the ears of Hedvent. Equally loyal to and afraid of House Thrune, the steward sent his reports about this group to Igorian and quickly received a reply. Hell Knights of the Order of the Rack came to Isger and established martial law in the town of Breachel. Working on suspicions that the Hellbreaker League had been hiding within the town, the Hell Knights took up residence in Citadel Alta Arian and scoured the region for signs of rebels or spies within Isgari leadership. The presence of the Hell Knights was seen as a blatant overreach of Cheliax by many Isgari. Various individuals reached out to neighboring Andoran, asking for aid against the presence of the Order of the Rack. Feeling sympathy for Isger, Andoran quickly responded to these messages. The semi-retired General Reginald Cormoth was sent to Breachel. A former leader within the Eagle Knights, Breachel was respected both in Andoran and Isger. However, when he tried to engage with the Order of the Rack about their presence within the town, he was captured and publicly executed by the Hell Knights. The reason given by Cheliax for this horrifying act was that they considered Cormoth and his retinue spies within Isger. Also, House Thrune reminded people that the Hell Knight orders are nominally independent organizations, and House Thrune not directly responsible for their actions. The people of Andoran demanded justice for this execution. However, if Andoran were to just send their troops into Isger, it would be an outright declaration of war towards Cheliax, and the Republic was not willing to go down that path. Supreme-elect Andira Merisek found another option. Cheliax had made it clear that the Hell Knights were technically not in service to the Infernal Empire. If it was not Andoran forces, but an equally independent force that would venture into Isger, Andoran could use Chelaxian rhetoric against them and hopefully prevent all-out war. And so, The independent forces of the Eagle Knights came to Breachel in 4725 AR, where they immediately clashed with Hell Knight forces. In what would become known as the Battle of Hell Knight Hill, the Eagle Knights joined forces with the Hellbreaker League and together drove the Hell Knights both from Breachel and Citadel Alta Irian. After this battle, the Hellbreaker League gave a war shard they had hidden to the Eagle Knights in exchange for guarantees that the Order would support the rebels in the future. Of course, Queen Abigail Thrune II did not leave this defeat unanswered. In response to, in her opinion, Andoran's clear act of war, Abigail declared that all Hell Knight orders were now under House Thrune's direct command, and were ordered to gather in Isger for the defense of the nation. It must have been clear to Abigail that such an act would not go over well with all orders. Many Hell Knights did not heed her call, and rumor has it some have even renounced their titles in response to this attempt of the Queen to exert unjust control over the independent orders. Still, many Hell Knights are traveling towards Logas, the second largest city of Isger, to regroup with what remains of the Order of the Rex troops who have fled from Breachel. Tensions between Andoran and Cheliax are rising even outside of Isger, as the naval arm of the Eagle Knights has been attacking Cheliaxian warships out on the open sea. However, one group that could be easily overlooked in this are the goblins that still live in the Chitterwood of Isger. It has been less than 30 years since the Goblin Blood Wars, and while the remaining goblinoids have no desire for conquest anymore, there are many among the living Isgari who experienced the horrors of the war firsthand and have not forgiven the goblins. The Chitterwood goblins are sure that there are people who are willing to use the coming conflict to drive them out of their homes for good. Will the goblins become a casualty of a war between nations? Or will they find a way to ally themselves with one side and show that they are looking for a peaceful future? War is coming to Isger, as Cheliax and Andoran clash and decide the fate of the vassal state. But this conflict will determine more than the future of Isger and its inhabitants. If Andoran can strike a powerful blow against the Infernal Empire, supported by the Hellbreakers League, it could mean the beginning of Cheliax's end. Abigail's arrogant proclamation that henceforth all Hell Knight orders are under the command of the Cheliaxian crown will also have consequences. Will enough Hell Knights turn their back on Cheliax, denying it one of its essential military advantages? Will we perhaps see some of these orders ally with the Hellbreakers League, if only to show House Thrune the error of its ways? Whatever alliances will be made, history will be written in Isger. The scholars of tomorrow are merely waiting to see if they will record the defeat of a republic or a mighty blow that will bring down an empire backed by hell itself. Thank you for watching this video about the rising tensions between Andoran and Cheliax. I hope this helps all of you who are about to run the Hellbreakers Adventure Path. Let me know in the comments below if you are planning to run that AP, or if you have any other thoughts on what is about to go down in Isger. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching, stay safe, take care, and bye-bye.